UFC 309. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. I'm very excited to talk about each of the matchups on this card. So make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure you share the video too. And also note, I'm going to be live for the entire UFC 309 fight card Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss the Fight Companion. Also, big thank you. We hit 40,000 subs during the live stream last night. Much love to each and every one of you. Let's get into the first fight of the night. We got ladies going after it. Veronica Hardy versus Eduarda Moura. I'm going to pick Veronica Hardy. I kind of wanted to twist it up and go with Moura, but I can't sell myself on her because it's simply a what if. I know for a fact Veronica Hardy has really good movement. She's a quality striker with good volume. She's actually pretty quick on the feet. And I think she has a good fight IQ. Her husband, Dan Hardy, ex-UFC title challenger. And since they got together, she got way better at fighting. Like her early UFC run, she was pretty mid. That was like, what, 4 years and 7 months ago? She makes the comeback like a little over a year and a half ago, and she's 3-0 right now. She just beat JJ Aldridge, who's a crafty veteran. And I have to give respect to a win like that. Whereas Eduarda Moura, she was fighting at 115. She never made 115 in the UFC, so she was fighting girls that were smaller than her. But really, she's been a woman's flyweight the whole time. Now she jumps up in weight, and she's taking on Veronica Hardy. But what does she offer? Takedowns, control, potential submission threat. Her only UFC win is Montserrat Conejo, who's pretty low caliber at 115, and obviously a crazy size difference between Moura, who's 5'6", and Conejo, who's like maybe 5 feet tall. And I think that jumping up in weight and taking on a well-versed veteran like Veronica Hardy is going to be a pretty tough task, unless it was the weight cut that caused her to not land super clean takedowns against Gomes and get on top and beat her up. It's always the weight cut. Absolutely that. If it's 100% because she cut way too much weight and she was draining herself to crap and she's significantly better than she's shown us, well, maybe she's got the underdog chance because she is a dog. But I don't feel like, from what I've seen evidence-wise, I can be overconfident in Eduarda Moura against Veronica Hardy, a well-versed veteran who's normally got good takedown defense and is still pretty resilient on the ground. Even if she's on her back, she's throwing up submission attempts. If she creates some space, she's working up kicks. She's landed some. And I think she's definitely going to have a striking advantage in the fight. So Moura could surprise us. That's really what I'm trying to allude my point to. If Moura goes out and puts on a beastly performance. I mean, the hype was she's the female Jailton Almeida when she came into the UFC. Last time out, I mean, she did okay with Diniz Gomes, who's relatively good at 115. She lost the fight. She looked tired. She was like panic shooting takedowns at time from way out of range and telegraphing punches and just looking kind of trash like 7.5 minutes into the fight. So against Veronica Hardy, if you're going to gas early, you're in trouble. We can blame it all on the weight cut, but it could be that she just has gas tank issues. We won't know for sure until Saturday. So we'll find out when these ladies fight. We're going to get a lot of evidence on what is the true level of Eduarda Moura. And I can't pick it off blind faith. I think that Hardy will have quality takedown defense. And if she is down, I think she can get back up. I don't think that Moura is going to be able to run her over on the floor. And if we're in striking, Hardy's a lot better on the feet. I'm going to say Veronica Hardy wins a competitive decision against Moura. I could see Moura having success getting on top, maybe even taking a round, but I'm going to say Hardy wins the fight. Minus 155 for Veronica Hardy, Moura at plus 135 as the underdog. I feel like it's a high probability of over 2.5 rounds. I think minus 300, yeah, it's a wide line, but a likely result. I'll anticipate these ladies are definitely going into the stages of the fight. I think Veronica Hardy has striking success, but I don't think that she violently drops Eduarda Moura with anything. I think she lands clean shots. She's forced against the cage a bit. She's going to be able to fight the position. Add into the fact we're at the big cage, I think this kind of gives a slight advantage to the striking of Hardy because her skilled movement and her speed on her feet is going to be able to keep her away from Eduarda Eduarda Moura and fend off takedown attacks. And I think as Moura gets desperate, she's going to start shooting shots from way out of range and just losing more of the fight. So I'm going to pick Veronica Hardy, crafty veteran, to beat Eduarda Moura, who is essentially a what-if Brazilian prospect. And I'm going to have faith that Hardy can go out and at least win 2 out of the 3 rounds and take a decision home as a superior striker and seemingly higher fight IQ, as well as experience in the UFC at 125. Moura, this is actually her natural weight class. To be fair, she was fighting at 125 outside of the UFC, but as soon as she jumped on Contender Series, it was 115 and then 2 weight misses in her UFC debut and her sophomore appearance. So I'm thinking Hardy can win it. We'll find out what Eduarda Moura brings. Ronda, they call her. I guess I see the Ronda Rousey comparisons a little bit with her face. Both got like those wide cheeks. And we're going to pick Veronica Hardy to take out the Brazilian Ronda Rousey, as they call her, even though, you know, she definitely hasn't showcased that level. Let's keep running. Next fight on the card, we got Oban Elliott versus Bassil Hafez. I'm going with the Welsh gangster. I'm an Oban Elliott believer. I picked Oban Elliott to beat Preston Parsons when a lot of people thought that Preston Parsons was going to outwork him in the grappling. I had him as a dog there. I'm picking him here to win, and he's a slight favorite now. I think it's because people are finding out Elliott's actually pretty good. He's a skilled fighter overall. He's got a very well-rounded game. When you look at his striking, it isn't like sensational compared to some of the knockout artists like a Carlos Prates at welterweight or a Jack Della, but it is rather effective. He does have pretty good defensive striking abilities, works good straight shots from the outside, and it's pretty well-timed takedowns and is able to garner up control inside of the clinch, landing trips against the cage as well, and threatening with dominant grappling positions. Seemingly has a decent fight IQ to go alongside of it. On the opposite side, Bassil Hafez is not a high fight IQ fighter. He is a brutal power punching brawler who comes forward like an absolute menace, throwing bombs. He's a freight train. His physique is crazy. It's like suspiciously jacked type physique. If he was in the bodybuilding world, they'd be calling him a fake natty. And I think that he has a fun forward pressure-based style, but he's flawed. He doesn't have much head movement. He was getting touched up a bit by Gall. Granted, he was landing some bombs too. He's got decent physical strength and can overwhelm some opponents with that strength to land takedowns. But I think like technique for technique, Oban Elliott is going to be superior in the grappling positions and in the clinch. I think Bassil Hafez's best chance in this fight is probably going to be early. Like round 1, if Hafez can rock Oban Elliott early and throw some huge punches and maybe TKO him. But I think as this fight goes on and Hafez slows a bit, Elliott's knowledge of positions and fighting skill is going to be the ultimate difference maker, even though he's definitely at a disadvantage in physicality and knockout power. No one's arguing those facts. But I think skill for skill, Oban Elliott's better. And I think he's built to weather a storm from Bassil Hafez and find a win. Method of victory, it's hard to predict that Oban Elliott gets a finish of Bassil Hafez because we haven't seen Oban Elliott finish a fight inside of the UFC yet, and he hasn't won a fight by finish in some time. And I think securing 2 out of 3 rounds is live here. If he goes out and wins all 3, I think that'd be pretty damn impressive with a beast like Hafez in round 1. I think Oban Elliott is better at fighting, but Bassil Hafez punches way harder and is a lot scarier. But don't just pick the scary guy. Bassil Hafez, low-key, at times he reminds me a bit of Mike Perry. He comes in very square and stiff and is winging bombs. He throws big overhands and looping hooks. I think Oban Elliott is going to be able to see those wide and wild shots coming, time his own strikes, and probably land some counter takedowns and win this fight. I'm going Oban decision. Minus 220 for Oban Elliott. He's actually a kind of wide favorite. At open, it was minus 187. I agree. I think that people are starting to figure out, oh shit, this Oban Elliott kid's actually really talented. Plus 185 for Hafez. Hafez had a great debut against Jack Della. It was like a one-hit wonder performance. And then he gave Gall trouble and beat him, but wasn't a great fight. I mean, he was touched up a bit. Over 2.5, minus 235. I think Elliott's really live to win a decision. If he went out there and submitted Bassil Hafez, that'd be kind of kind of crazy. It's not impossible, but I really favor Oban Elliott on the cards. I think that he'll time some takedowns in the mix. I think he'll land some shots on the feet too. I'm not saying Oban Elliott's a dead man in striking. Though Hafez is powerful, he is throwing wild bombs that they take a lot of time to hit the target, right? Something about a straight shot that's so beautiful. It's the fastest way to hit the target. Hafez likes to loop his punches. When you have a young prospect like Oban Elliott who has good eyes, I think he can time some punches and hit Hafez. And if he gets hit hard by Hafez, I think Oban Elliott's Welsh chin holds up. I know they say the Scousers can't get knocked out. I don't think the Welsh gangsters are getting knocked out either. I got respect for Oban Elliott, and I believe that he's pretty good. He's the more talented guy. He's got more upside potential at 26, and I think he wins the decision against a freak of nature in Bassil Hafez. Don't be terrified by the physique and the big power shots. Be terrified by the technicality, and that's Oban Elliott. I'm going with the Welsh gangster to win it. My guy, Oban Elliott. I like him a lot, and I'm picking him here. Let's keep running. Next fight. We got Gall versus Ramiz Brahimaj. You know I'm going to pick Gall. Ramiz Brahimaj is 5-5 out of his last 10 fights. He's literally been trading wins and losses since before his UFC debut, and his UFC wins are really not impressive. Some recent ones is Michael Gilmore, who's out of the UFC, Sasha Politnikov, who's getting his ass kicked in karate combat as of late. And now he's taking on Gall, who, say what you want. Yes, 7-6 record sucks. Yes, he had it easy in his debut with Mike Jackson and then CM Punk. He's had it hard recently. 1-4 out of his last 5. But Gall is still kind of showing improvement. Last time out, he went toe to toe, tit for tat, with Bassil Hafez, and yeah, he lost the fight, but Hafez is a powerhouse, and yeah, I just picked against Hafez with Oban Elliott, but that doesn't mean I don't respect Hafez's game. He's powerful, he's dangerous, he hits really hard, he's a bully, and Gall hit him with some hard punches and made it fairly competitive. Mike Malott brutally dropped him and finished him, but to be fair, he was beating Mike Malott up on the feet. He busted Mike Malott up in round 1, and he was knocked out later in round 1, but he had good moments in the fight before getting countershot KO'd. Alex Morono beats him on a decision. Crafty vet. Beat Jordan Williams, who at one point knocked out RoboCop and was supposed to be good, but Gall, I don't know, just kind of ended the hype that was left there, if whatever was left. On the side of Brahimaj, like I said, trading wins and losses. He's a pressure-based wrestler, and he wants control. He wants to be in top position. He wants to park that car on top and search for submissions. Well, Gall has good jiu-jitsu, right? He's quality from bottom position. He'll throw up submission attempts from bottom, and I don't think he will be comfortable just accepting bottom position. But what I like from Gall is a striking advantage, and I think Ramiz Brahimaj is a bit of a busted prospect. I don't know if he's much above the LFA level guys. I mean, he was losing fights in LFA before getting signed to the UFC, and he came in with some hype. I mean, we can look at Brahimaj early on. It's like, oh, people believed. Maybe. Max Griffin, listen, he's got 2 wins in the UFC. He's got 5 fights in the UFC dating back to 2020. He's fighting like once a year. Gall, I know he's been kind of inconsistent too, but I think he's got a chance here against Ramiz Brahimaj. I feel like he looked better in moments against Bassil Hafez and against Mike Malott, who are a lot better than Brahimaj, I think. I'm going to say Gall can pull off a surprise upset in this fight. The odds for the fight, he's actually the favorite, so I guess it's not an upset. What was he at open? He opened up as a favorite too. Damn. I'm looking at the lines here, and they're about even. Yeah, I guess he's not the underdog. But it's going to feel like an upset because I think that everybody kind of writes Gall off, me included. I've been one of them. But Ramiz Brahimaj hasn't looked good in a long while. I mean, Court McGhee outdogged him. Garimbo outdogged him. The loss to Max Griffin. You could say, oh, well, he went distance with Court. He got dropped bad in the first round by Court. Went distance with Garimbo. Well, Gall's a tricky style. Gall's talented. I think Gall can win this fight. He's a minus 125 favorite. Brahimaj plus 105. Gall going to be, what? He's 7-6 now. He's going to be 7-7 as a pro and get released from the UFC after this weekend. I just don't really see that happening. I think that he'll do okay. I think he'll have good striking moments. I think he'll hit Brahimaj with clean punches. I'd say Gall's better on the feet. Brahimaj better at wrestling, probably jiu-jitsu wise. I favor Gall. So could it be Brahimaj laying prey to a boring decision? Maybe, but I don't think Gall allows that to happen. I think it turns out to be a scrappy fight on the feet at times. And I think Gall lands more significant shots. And I think he could still bring a submission threat to the fight. Even though Garimbo and Court McGhee didn't submit Brahimaj, I think the reason they didn't submit him, right, is because they were so offensive with their wrestling. Whereas Gall could potentially lock up a submission as a counter to a takedown attempt from Brahimaj. So I'm going to pick Mickey Gall to win. I don't think it's crazy to say he could end up pulling off a shocking submission win. So I'm going with Mickey Gall. Let's see what the people are picking. Everybody's picking Brahimaj. How can you really be confident on Brahimaj, though? 5-5 in his last 10. That's Brahimaj. Losing on the regional scene. Coming into the UFC, not doing anything near impressive. Now, has Mickey Gall looked sensational? No. I still respect the win over Jordan Williams, though. His submission game is still legit. He's got long arms. He doesn't have super long reach because he's narrow, but he's got long arms. He's got good jiu-jitsu. His boxing's getting better and better each fight. He's only 32. He's not 40. It's not over for him yet. I'm going Mickey Gall, and I think he might lock up a submission against Brahimaj. I'm going to pick Mickey Gall to pull through over Ramiz Brahimaj. I'm surprised he's the favorite, though. I thought he would be the dog. Next fight on the card, we got Marcin Tybura versus Jhonata Diniz. Short notice fight for both, but Tybura gets the call as Diniz was supposed to be fighting in Edmonton against Derek Lewis a couple weeks back. And now that fight gets canceled, and he's fighting here at UFC 309. I'm picking Diniz. Diniz, I should probably say. I got to give it that proper Brazilian pronunciation. He's a powerful kickboxer. He's dangerous on the feet. He's got a massive left hook. He picks his shots well. He's kind of got like a crouching style, which I actually think kind of helps with takedown defense. Marcin Tybura tends to do really good in fights where he's hurt. His opponents blow their wad trying to knock him out by going crazy and reckless with big bombs. And you might be thinking to yourself, shit, Diniz is a striker. Wouldn't he do the same thing? Diniz is a lot more of a high caliber technician with knockout power as opposed to just simply being an MMA brawling striker. Like, this is going to sound like an absolute flame of Tai Tuivasa, but look at Tai Tuivasa. Yes, he's a knockout artist in the UFC, but when he fought Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who was a well-refined kickboxer and an MMA fighter, he got picked apart for 3 rounds. Diniz is more cut from the cloth of Rozenstruik, I feel, with a very well-versed pro kickboxing background. His patience is definitely there. He comes in good shape, even though he's not shredded to the gills at heavyweight. He's a fit heavyweight. And he's 22-7 as a pro kickboxer and fought like Rico Verhoeven. He's got good opponents on the resume. He's got serious knockout power. He's got a massive left hook. And last time he fought a pretty good pressure wrestler who was young and hungry in Carl Williams, and he beat him by a decision. And you might look at that fight and say, well, he couldn't knock Carl Williams out. Now he's going to knock out Tybura. Go rewatch some of the punches that Diniz landed on Williams. Very few heavyweights are eating those. Carl Williams, unfortunately, got released from the UFC after that, but he's actually a really underrated heavyweight because he's very athletic and fit, and he can take big shots. He's got a strong chin. A lot of heavyweights are not eating a punch like that because they're not as loose as Carl Williams rolling with the shot like we saw when Diniz and him faced off. Marcin Tybura doesn't roll with shots. Marcin Tybura is not a very good striker. He's probably one of the worst strikers in the top 15 of the heavyweight division, but what he's good at is submissions, and what he's good at is weathering storms. He's got solid takedowns. He's got solid jiu-jitsu. He's a legit black belt, and at heavyweight, having legit black belt skills can take you super far. But he's taken on someone here that has a lot of potential trending upwards, improving grappling game each and every fight, and I'm going to expect it improved here. He was preparing for a big fight against Derek Lewis. Yes, polar opposite matchup, fair point, but I think Diniz comes into fights with the intention that everybody wants to take me down, for the most part. And Marcin Tybura got the call to take this fight on short notice. Yeah, he trains all year, but was he fight camp ready? I think Diniz is going to come in and actually put Marcin Tybura to sleep. He's got big knockout power. Watch for his left hook. He stings opponents up with very clean punches, and he's extremely accurate too. I like Diniz, man. I think he's got high-level potential. And I think people are going to judge him for his debut where Austin Lane surprised him with a takedown and got the mount, and, oh, we're going to write him off. Or Carl Williams won the 3rd round against him, write him off. But look at the improvement fight to fight. And I expect him to look even better here against Marcin. So give me Jhonata Diniz, high quality kickboxing and a high fight IQ with legit knockout power to find the chin of Marcin Tybura, who's 39, put him to sleep, and continue his ascension up this damn heavyweight division, which needs good fighters. Heavyweight needs good fighters. It always has, but it definitely does now. Especially with Tom Aspinall at the top. Let's say if Jones and, Stipe retire, we'll talk about that fight later. Who knows, man? Diniz could be a couple fights away for fighting for a damn title if he beats Marcin Tybura here. This is essentially the penultimate step to becoming like a legit contender for him. We'll find out if he's got what it takes. I'm saying he does. Minus 105. He's an ever so slight underdog. Tybura minus 115. What's the under? Under 1.5 plus 125. I think it could go under. If Diniz is stopping takedowns, it's going under. If he's on his back, he could get grinded out in round 1 and submitted in round 2. But I think his power is that much of a difference maker, and not because he's just throwing ballistic, chaotic bombs, but it's because it's precise power. He's accurate to the target and does serious damage. He's not Greg Hardy, who just throws wild bombs and is now getting knocked out in boxing. He's not Walt Harris, who's just explosive and athletic, but really lacks technicality. This dude is a high-caliber pro kickboxer who transitioned to MMA and is looking to be a top contender and somebody to keep an eye on, I think. I'm going Diniz. Knockout win, breakout performance, and a dope fight. I'm excited as hell for this one. Tybura looking to come off that loss where Spivak armbarred him. Totally different style matchup. But don't forget he was getting touched up by Tuivasa in the fight before, who's nowhere near the technical level of Jhonata Diniz. Let's keep running. Next fight on the card is Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. This was a tricky fight to pick that I sat on a while, and I have to go with my logic. I think Damon Jackson should actually beat Jim Miller. And I know a lot of people are probably hype on, I'm going Jim Miller this weekend as a dog. He is 41. Damon Jackson at 36. You might be like, yo, but look at some of Damon Jackson's recent fight. He lost to Chepe. Yeah, but Chepe Mariscal's got insane pressure, and that was an absolute dog fight. And it was at 145. Remember something. This fight right here, coming up, right? This is a lightweight fight. This is not at 145. Damon Jackson is going to have an extra 10 pounds on him, which I actually think could be the best decision of his career, at least for this specific matchup right here. Simply put, I think that Damon Jackson with 10 extra pounds is going to be maybe a small margin, but better at wrestling than he was before. He's going to be stronger. And his gas tank, always good, could potentially be even better here without shredding the extra 10. He's 36 years old. He's probably never going to get a title fight. I don't think he's ever going to get a title fight. He's not. If I had to bet, I would throw a lot of money at that he wouldn't. But how I think about it, when I see the matchup play out, I really believe that Damon Jackson can out-volume and outwork Jim Miller over the 3 rounds. The thing about Jim Miller is right now he's riding high with some really impressive wins. He's getting violent knockouts, right? He's KOing guys that, to be fair, are not that good. KO of Jesse Butler. That's really not a big win. Benitez he beats by submission. He knocked out Nicholas Moura a few fights before that. These guys don't have the same volume attack, nor gas tank, nor wrestling ability of Damon Jackson, which is why I think Damon's got a good chance to win. I believe Jim Miller's better at boxing than Damon Jackson, but it's not a boxing fight. And Damon Jackson's going to be in his face. And I'm not confident that Jim Miller responds well to a very heavy pressure onslaught from Damon Jackson for 3 hard rounds. You look at the losses of Damon Jackson, okay, Chepe Mariscal, who outdogged him, high pressure, high pace guy. Billy Q outdogged him, high pressure, high pace guy, tough guy to put away. And if you do put him away, you normally beat him, right? That's the way to beat him. When you go distance, it's hard. Danny Ige chinned him. Elliott Tybura. The guys that knock him out are elite. Jim Miller is nearly, I guess he's 41. I don't want to say he's nearly 42. I'm not trying to age my guy. As much as I like Jim Miller's clean striking style, he hasn't in a while really faced somebody with Damon Jackson's pressure attack. And I don't know if at this age he's going to be able to keep up with the pressure. Lost to Alexander Hernandez. Now it's nearly 2 years ago, but on the opposite side, we got Damon Jackson who beat him and out-wrestled him. And I felt like Alexander Hernandez looked like a monster in that fight against Jim Miller. He looked way bigger and stronger than Jim. And now we got somebody that beat him. Yeah, it might have been, the 145 version of Alexander Hernandez, but now this is the 155 version of Damon Jackson. I just think at 36, he's the younger guy here. He's already taller at 5'11" to 5'8", so I think he'll fill out this lightweight frame better. I'm not super confident Jim Miller can chain wrestle for 3 rounds. I'm not super confident he's going to do well fighting backwards, getting pressed against the cage and working dirty boxing in the clinch for 3 hard rounds. Miller likes to have space to land the big knockout shots. Could he lock up a surprise sub? Like, maybe, but Damon Jackson's got good submission defense. He's really difficult to submit. He's scrambly as hell on the ground. And I think that picking Jim Miller would be more of a dog chase as opposed to a reality where logic is telling me Damon Jackson at 155 is going to outwork Jim Miller to the surprise of many. Even though everybody is picking Jim Miller, the odds have Damon Jackson as a kind of strong favorite at like minus 169. He opened up as a plus 115 dog, which is interesting. The line movement is interesting to me. Damon Jackson being this big of a favorite is really interesting because you'd have to assume that a lot more people are going to be betting that Miller plus money line. Very interesting. I feel like Damon Jackson might be a guy that's getting overlooked this week. The whole damn MMA community picking Jim Miller, something tells me those are fan-sided picks, man. I think Damon Jackson can outwork him. I'm going to pick Damon. Over 1.5 minus 260. I say yes. I like the over 1.5. I think we're going 3 hard rounds between these two. And I'm going to say Damon Jackson is very live to win 29-28 or potentially even 30-27. I really wonder how Jim's going to keep up with Damon. Especially because last fight, it was 6.5 months ago. But he got absolutely destroyed by Bobby Green for 3 rounds. He got pieced up brutally, and he took a ton of damage in that fight. I don't want to overlook the damage factor either from that loss. Say what you want about Chepe out-wrestling Damon Jackson. He didn't take, like, super significant damage. 3 months now since this fight. I think Damon Jackson's got a real chance to win, man. And I'm going to say Damon Jackson at 155 puts a high-paced attack on Jim Miller and wins a competitive back and forth decision, maybe to the surprise of most, I would say at this point, because Jim Miller definitely got that cult fan base coming in heavy. But yeah, I'm going to go with Damon Jackson. I'll say pace, pressure, youth, and gas tank are going to be some major factors that could give Jim Miller a lot of trouble. Miller, of course, live for the counter shot KO or live for the submission, but really hard to do against Damon Jackson. And Jackson's only be getting knocked out by the best of the best. I'm going to pick Damon Jackson for the win, even though it's not an odds upset. It's one of those that feels like an upset pick because it's against the grain. Next fight on the card, we got Chris Weidman versus Eryk Anders. I'm going to pick Chris Weidman to win this fight. And some people might be like, bro, you just picked against a 40-year-old. Now you're picking one. Hear me out for a second. Different stylistic matchup. Eryk Anders, last time out against Jamie Pickett, let's not forget, he got dropped in the first round. And then he went to a very pressure-heavy, control-based top game. He lands takedowns. He's controlling you from top position. He's grinding out a win, peppering away with some ground and pound. The thing is, what are the odds that Eryk Anders is out-wrestling Chris Weidman? I don't care that Weidman's 40. I don't see it. I don't think Anders is landing takedowns. So now, Anders in a kickboxing match with Weidman. I don't really think of Anders as a powerful kickboxer. He's a durable guy for sure, but he's not great on the feet. He doesn't have big knockout power. He's not super explosive. He's strong, and he works well inside of the clinch, bringing pressure. But Chris Weidman, I think, actually does really well in the clinch, and this is kind of a bad matchup for Eryk Anders. As Weidman is now 40 years old, I feel like the fights that would give him a lot of trouble would be against some of these quicker and explosive power hitters, whereas Eryk Anders is more of a slower, pressure-based power puncher-ish. Like, he's got kind of power, but kind of not. He knocked out Kyle Dawkins, but that's not like a major KO. But you get where I'm coming from. He's a strong guy who works really well in the clinch. Well, Weidman works great in the clinch, even at 40. Weidman throws nice knees in the clinch, and Weidman still brings a legit wrestling threat to this fight, regardless of his age. And I think he looked okay. Like, take away the eye poke moments. He looked okay with Bruno Silva. What I think is going to be an interesting factor in this fight is Chris Weidman pressuring, looking for takedowns, putting Eryk Anders on the cage, shooting for these takedowns, but maybe not getting him down, but getting towards his backside. And then Anders, if he plants his hands on the ground, right? Now knees are going to be coming. It's not like back in the day where you're putting your hands on the ground and you could avoid getting knee to the face. Weidman's got decent clinch knees. And another factor that I'm thinking is, okay, now with the threat of the knee, Anders needs to go on his knees and give Weidman true control. Chris Weidman on his back, I could see him grinding out a win over Anders, landing big ground and pound. I think Chris Weidman's going to pull through. I know he's 40 and it's easy to overlook him. I get it. I just feel like a guy like Eryk Anders, who's never made it to the highest level of the UFC, was never a top caliber contender, even though Weidman is 1,000%, I'm certain he's past his best days. It's hard for me to go out and pick Eryk Anders, who I just never have been impressed by. I never watch an Eryk Anders fight and say, wow. Maybe once. Maybe the Kyle Dawkins fight. But like very rarely. Lost to Andre Muniz by submission. Jung Young Park, he gave him a tough fight. And he ends up losing a split decision. He was tough in that fight. He knocked out Kyle Dawkins. That was kind of impressive, but even though Dawkins got cut from the UFC. Lost to Marc-Andre Barrios. That hasn't aged well. Beat Jamie Pickett but got dropped. That didn't age good at all. Chris Weidman can win this fight. And I think Chris Weidman can surprise a lot of people. He's live for a submission. With this new rule set, I'm thinking that the potential for knees to the head while Anders is pressed towards the cage and Weidman has that backside position could shift how this fight's going and end up landing Weidman a very dominant position and potentially a finish. But I'm going to pick Weidman to win as the official call. Decision came to me early, but as I talk about it more, like, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility of a finish, but like, bro, Weidman is 40. So me chasing a finish, oh, he's going to knock him out. Maybe sub him, maybe. But grinding out a decision win seems like a very live outcome for the 40-year-old Chris Weidman against Eryk Anders. Now, looking at the odds for the fight, Weidman's an underdog at plus 110. At open, he was all the way at plus 160, but the line's gotten a lot closer with Anders at minus 130. I think Eryk Anders is beatable. He's not a super high caliber guy. He's never been a top contender. He's also 37. Minus 214 for the over. I mean, probably going over, but as a fan, I really hope for the finish. Anders' record inside of the UFC is what? He's 8-8 in the UFC. Eryk Anders is incredibly mid. He came into the UFC with some real hype, though. I mean, he came in at 8-0. Never lived up to it. I really feel like he doesn't have great timing on his punches, and he does like to rely on his physicality and his strength to land takedowns and beat people up from top position. He's not going to take down and beat up Chris Weidman. I just can't see that happening. I think Chris Weidman's going to win this fight, and I think he's going to pull off a massive New York W. I think the crowd's going to go absolutely insane. And I don't know if he keeps on fighting, who knows, because of his smashed up leg from that Uriah Hall fight. But either way, Weidman could go out with a win in New York over Eryk Anders, feeling like an absolute savage. I'm going Weidman for the W as an underdog, and I think he's being slept on. I'm picking Chris Weidman to take it home. We're going with the All-American, and I'm excited as hell about this fight. Shout out Chris Weidman for the upset win. Let's keep running. Next fight on the card, we have our featured prelim of the night. We have Jonathan Martinez versus Marcus McGhee. I'm going to pick Marcus McGhee to win this fight. I'm going to ride with the MMA lab. And I know some people might be thinking, damn, you're really going to write Jonathan Martinez off right after the fight against Jose Aldo? It's not so much that I'm writing him off after the loss to Aldo, but what I'm looking at is his style of fighting versus a Marcus McGhee. I'm not so sure it works well. Let's be honest, Jonathan Martinez is a great point striker. He picks his shots incredibly well. And just because I'm calling him a point striker doesn't mean he can't finish fights. Yeah, I know. Adrian Yanez, he destroyed his leg. I hear you. I know. But when I look at a fight against Marcus McGhee, McGhee is incredibly comfortable in both stances. He's a very slick striker, and I will guarantee you he's the more powerful puncher. He's 100% better at boxing than Jonathan Martinez. When you get into the closer range, red zone, I favor Marcus McGhee all day. From the yellow zone, the mid-range, with the leg kick threat of Martinez, yes, it's a very good offensive weapon, but there could be big shots brought right down the center line by McGhee to counteract those heavy leg kicks that come from Jonathan Martinez. I think Marcus McGhee has a legit chance to actually hurt Martinez bad and maybe even knock him out, which might come as a surprise to some because you look at the Aldo fight and say he survived with Aldo. Styles make the fights. Marcus McGhee not only is an explosive, accurate, and athletic striker, okay? He also has very good wrestling skills. Marcus McGhee can time takedowns and control on the ground a bit. Now, not easy to dominate Jonathan Martinez on the ground, but what I'll tell you is bringing in a significant striking threat, but mixing that together with the threat of takedowns will open up both avenues for success for Marcus McGhee. I can see the wrestling offense potentially allowing him to land bigger shots on the feet, and I could also see the clean striking on the feet opening up counter shot opportunities for these damn takedowns. I think Marcus McGhee is going to make people say, oh shit. He's a very exciting prospect. I like his style. I'm ranting heavy about Marcus McGhee. I mean, Martinez is a technical kickboxer. We all know his style. He chops up the legs nicely. Both guys are southpaws too, which is interesting. This is going to be a cool fight. McGhee comfortable in both stances. Expect switches. Speed advantage, boxing advantage. And I just think Marcus McGhee has a higher ceiling. I know he's 34 and you're ready to write him off because he's 34. But I don't think Jonathan Martinez is going to be able to deal with the speed factor and the precision with the boxing. I think Marcus McGhee is taking the winner of his life home. This is the win of his life. Jonathan Martinez had a great streak going, to be fair, though. Before the fight against Aldo, which he lost by decision, and he was hurt bad late in the fight. He beat Adrian Yanez with leg kicks. Yanez kind of got exposed, though, low-key, of not being that great. Let's be honest. Fight before that, Said Nurmagomedov win. It was close. Could have went either way. Cub Swanson, leg kicks, older guy, Vince Morales, journeyman. Marcus McGhee beating Bolaños, who's a fun striker. They just won last weekend, not super good. JP Bay's not very good. Journey Newsom, Matt, but he subbed him up. I think Marcus McGhee pulls off the biggest win of his life. I see the potential when I watch his style, and I think if all things go to plan, he should fuck Jonathan Martinez up. Let's look at the odds for this fight. Martinez plus 115 is the dog. McGhee minus 135. Close money odds in this fight here. Let's see what else we got. The over 2.5 is minus 165. McGee's got to be live for a finish, though. He's a finisher, and he's well-versed with his finishes, too. Marcus McGhee is not a guy that just gets knockouts. I mean, he's got one submission win in his UFC debut. Yeah, I guess inside the UFC, he's not a guy that just gets knockouts. But outside the UFC, he is just a KO guy. But I remember the prediction for that Journey Newsom fight from me, I called that damn submission when many people doubted it. I think Marcus McGhee is crafty, man. And I think he's well-versed. He's got a lot of power, but he is good on the ground, too. Don't doubt him anywhere. And I think he's going to beat Jonathan Martinez. I see a W incoming. So we're going with Marcus McGhee to close out the prelims with the absolute biggest win of his career. And I think he is live to get the finish. I'm leaning towards that knockout side. I think he can rock Jonathan Martinez. Martinez was knocked out by Davey Grant. When was this? Back in 2021? I think he's live to get knocked out here. I'm going McGhee by KO. Let's keep running. Let's jump to our main card opener. If you guys haven't, make sure you smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe it up. We got Mauricio Ruffy versus James Llontop. Of course, the pick is Mauricio Ruffy. It's fighting nerds. It's the Brazilian lightweight savage to watch. McGregor comparisons already. And when you watch him fight, you'll see why. If you haven't seen it already, do some research on him. Watch him fight versus Jamie Mullarkey at least, because the kid is absolutely incredible. Slick striking style, which is very Conor McGregor-like. He has like a natural flow to his movement. And if you're a newer fan and you're thinking, oh, Conor McGregor-like, you're talking about the McGregor got chin by Poirier? Nah. I'm talking about McGregor when he's knocking out Jose Aldo. right? When he's beating Dennis Seaver, when he's sleeping Dustin Poirier at featherweight. It reminds me of the McGregor that knocked out an Eddie Alvarez. It's that karate-esque slickness, not the boxing-heavy McGregor. I want to emphasize that point. Ruffy seems to be a very talented striker who already has like a high caliber win against a good prospect outside of the UFC. Ramon Magomed training with the, Dagestan Savages was supposed to beat him. And he got the win up in weight against a damn guy who was well respected in Khabib's promotion. And that was Makhachev's boy. And then he absolutely destroys Jamie Mullarkey. He's going to wreck James Llontop. Llontop, listen, respect to James Llontop. He's a good brawler. He's a tough dude who likes to strike. And he's a quality striker. But he's an average striker. On the side of Mauricio Ruffy, we have exceptional striker. We have extreme precision, next level type shit, right? There's certain guys that just bring a different style that you don't often see where you're like, okay, I know this guy can make waves. Am I going to guarantee Ruffy's the next champ? Maybe not. But I'll guarantee you he's going to knock James Llontop out. And I think he's going to have a tremendous display this Saturday where he showcases those high-caliber striking skills. Now, Llontop is known for a good chin, to be fair, but I think Ruffy is going to be too damn slick, and Llontop is going to look to brawl. He's going to get a little crazy, and we'll see a counter shot KO from Ruffy. They nicknamed him One Shot. Could not be a more fitting nickname other than maybe the Brazilian Conor McGregor, but I like One Shot better for its creativity. And he does that step back straight, very similar to how Conor McGregor does. He landed that a bit on Jamie Mullarkey last time. He looks really good. The potential is unreal. His movement's crazy. I'm telling you, it's like prime McGregor-esque. He's got clean knockout power. He's precise as they come. And he's sneaky with his counter straight shots, and you need to watch for everything. This dude has spinning arsenal too. Like, he's got dangerous attacks everywhere. And I think that Mauricio Ruffy is going to put on a violent display against James Llontop in a fight that he's supposed to win. Let's not get it twisted. This is his showcase opportunity on a UFC pay-per-view where he could potentially be on the fast track to superstardom in the UFC if he's as impressive as I'm thinking he's going to be. Looking at the odds, it's minus 900 for Mauricio Ruffy with Llontop at plus 600. Give me Ruffy all day, of course. Come on. Come on, what are we doing? What are we talking about? Over 1.5, minus 150. I think it's live to go under 1.5. I think we could see a first-round knockout. I think definitely under 2.5. If Ruffy wins a decision against Llontop, shit, he better at least drop him 3 times for it to still hold that type of value and the hype remains. Even though Llontop has never been knocked out as a pro, I saw that he was KO'd as an amateur. I think the chin can be cracked. Just because you've never been knocked out doesn't mean you can't be knocked out. And I think Mauricio Ruffy is the guy to give him one shot and put him to sleep. So Ruffy, KO, emphatic fashion. We're all going to go crazy. And he's going to be the talk of UFC 309 as far as prospects are going. And I'm really excited for Saturday. Fighting nerds, too. And you can't stop picking fighting nerds, guys. Like, they always win. Prates last week, Barrio before. Like, come on. It's Fighting Nerds Takeover in 2025. I think one of them is probably live to fight for the belt. And I think Ruffy's well on his way to getting a shot if he can stop takedowns. We'll see as he gets a little bit higher up the ranks. But right now, the James Llontops of the world, Ruffy is going to violently chin. Let's jump to the next fight, ladies fight. It's Karine Silva versus Viviane Araujo. I feel like this fight drops my anticipation substantially. I was really excited talking about the last fight. But I'm going to pick Karine Silva. She's pretty good. Karine Silva has a strong grappling base. She's really explosive and athletic. Her striking's quality as well. Her control from top position is nice. She's very physical from top position. She makes girls uncomfortable. She's ready to grind out wins. She does have a submission arsenal, even though, last time she didn't submit Lipski. Lipski is really hard to submit. And I know some people say, oh, well, Jazz Davicius just did it to her. To be fair, Silva did get to her first, though. Viviane Araujo is okay. She's got decent striking, to be fair. I actually like her boxing, and she's pretty quick and explosive on the feet. She does have good clinch control in certain matchups, and she has like a pressure-based style. But I don't think she's going to be able to deal with the grappling threat from Silva. I think Silva's better in the clinch. I think Silva is better at takedowns. I definitely think she's better at trips. And I think she's better at jiu-jitsu as well. I think Karine Silva probably is en route to getting a pretty clean decision win. That's why I'm not super hype about the fight as I see the matchup playing out. in, you know, somewhat dominant, but like still competitive enough where there's not a finish or a wipeout. Listen, I would love to see Karine Silva submit Viviane Araujo, but Araujo is like relatively hard to put away. If you look as a pro, she's got no submission losses. She was knocked out one time, and this dates back to pre-UFC. Inside of the UFC, never been finished. She's kind of like a solid like top 7 gatekeeper, top 8 gatekeeper type of girl, and I think Karine Silva is going to blast through the gate. Last time it was Lipski de Silva for Karine. Now it's Araujo. Last time for Araujo, it was Natalia Silva. All these Silvas as prospects. Holy shit. And she lost that fight. Fight before that, she did beat Jennifer Maia, which I got to give her some praise and respect for that. Maia's an OG. But lost to Amanda Ribas, lost to Alexa Grasso, you know, former champ at this point now. Not a horrible loss. And neither is the Ribas loss. But I think if Ribas level can get through Araujo at 125, I'm like, yeah, Karine Silva definitely wins this too. So I'm picking Karine Silva. I think unanimous decision is pretty live. I'd be impressed as hell to see her get a finish, but like I said, don't think it's super likely. But I like Karine Silva to outwork Araujo over the 3 rounds. At minus 270, she's a wide favorite. There's not really much you can do on the money line besides Parlay City. Plus 230 for Araujo. Okay. Listen, I think that Karine Silva is fun. She's got a lot of promise, but I could see this fight sucking. I like her as a prospect. I'm not trying to absolutely flame her here, but I complained about this fight being on the main card. I'll tell you why, because we might see a bit of a dud before we get to the, you know, bigger fights on the card, as I could see Karine Silva and Araujo kind of stifling each other in the clinch in moments, and like Silva getting her down, but not really able to do much from top position. It's a fight that is very much high likely of going over 2.5 at minus 250. I would say it's a high likely chance that it does. I'll predict Silva. I'll predict decision. Now, if you look at her resume, to be fair, she's known for the finishes. But as you get to this UFC level, not finishing De Silva and then now taking on Araujo who's never been finished, I think Silva probably wins another fight by decision. Hey, listen, if she goes out and chins Araujo or subs her, the stock's going to go absolutely crazy. But something tells me she's going to win on the scorecard. So, Karine Silva for the W. Ladies fight, and we're riding with the prospect. Let's keep running. Next fight on the card, we have our featured fight. It's Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. I'm going to be picking Bo Nickal, as I would say majority of people are. He's an outrageous favorite, but it is what it is. Listen, talking about the fight, though, Nickal is a beast of a wrestler, but he's also a very good jiu-jitsu practitioner now, too. He's getting better with his patience, right? And we kind of saw that against Cody Brundage. And I know the memes go around of Brundage stopping a takedown and throwing him to the side. God forbid a takedown gets stopped. Holy shit. Yes, you shoot takedowns enough, somebody's going to stop a few. That's how it goes. The way the fight ended, Bo Nickal rear naked strangle. And I think that we're live to see a fight where Paul Craig is resilient from the bottom position. I'll assume that Paul Craig gets taken down easier than Cody Brundage for the simple fact that Paul Craig genuinely likes fighting off of his back. I mean, he's got 2 massive wins from bottom position against Magomed Ankalaev, the rightful #1 contender at light heavyweight, and Jamal Hill, the former champion. So you got to respect what Paul Craig can do from bottom position. But I think, first thing, 185, Paul Craig might be worse. I want to put that out there. He's also older than when he got those signature wins, and he's cutting more weight, which I don't love. Bo Nickal is going to have the wrestling and transitional speed advantage. I see him winning like every scramble between the two. And I think Bo Nickal's alive to get to Paul Craig's back, and I'm thinking he's probably going to submit him. Now, I could see Paul Craig resilient in round 1, him playing guard a bit, trying to throw shots from bottom, Nickal looking to pass, taking his time, Paul Craig trying to shoot up triangles, Nickal defending him. But eventually, I think Nickal does get the finish of Paul Craig, especially this nearly 37-year-old Paul Craig, who I'm just not that high on at 185. He even had trouble with Andre Muniz, but he found the finish. I don't think he's getting it here. Bo Nickal's a really talented prospect. He's a freak athlete. He's an amazing wrestler, right? Transitions to MMA, and he's becoming a very well-versed MMA grappling-based fighter. He's definitely going to be grappling first, but he does have a sick knockout of Val Woodburn. I got to give respect to that. He flatlined him with ease. Granted, who was Woodburn stepping in, taking that fight? But regardless, I think that Bo Nickal here gets a nice win. Paul Craig is going to look for the submission. He might even jump Gilly. Like, he'll pull guard. He'll want to throw up submission attempts. On the feet, I'm telling you, Bo Nickal's going to be better at striking than Paul Craig. Paul Craig is incredibly stiff. I have really talked bad about Paul Craig striking for a while, and I think that most people would agree. It's incredibly stiff. He doesn't have much power. He's awkward on the feet, and he's chinny. Paul Craig is not slick at all on the feet. He lacks head movement altogether. He's essentially a pure grappling-based style, especially now at 37 or almost 37. I'm saying Bo Nickal by sub. Won't be crazy, though, if it hits the second round. If the first round, Paul Craig survives and Nickal is patient. We saw patience with Cody Brundage. The biggest thing about Nickal, even if you stop takedown 1, let's say Craig defends early, 2, 3, 4, 5 coming, he's going to get you down. And I just don't think Paul Craig can deal with Bo Nickal right now. Also, an 8-year age difference between the two. I think Bo Nickal's on the come up. Paul Craig probably teetering down the ranks at this point. And I'm going to say Bo Nickal takes home the biggest win of his life. Now, as far as the odds for the fight, Bo Nickal minus 1,300 is the favorite. Paul Craig at plus 775. I don't think Paul Craig is the guy to end Bo Nickal's unbeaten streak. The over is plus money. That's interesting. I would say under 2.5 rounds is better. Over 1.5. Nickal could lock it up in the first round. It depends what Craig's doing from the bottom. It depends how he tries to stifle the game. The thing is, Craig really doesn't have much of a puncher's chance on the feet. And yeah, sure, he kind of has a submission chance on the ground. But like I said, the grappling skill of Nickal, elite level, and the transitional and scrambling speed is like levels above. Nickal's just a lot more mobile than Paul Craig. So I'm going with Bo Nickal to win. I think he's getting a submission. He should beat Paul Craig. And I think the hype keeps on building for Bo Nickal heading into 2025. And I'm looking forward for more. I like Bo. I think he's getting a lot of, flame. People shit on him. But I like Bo Nickal. And he's beating Paul Craig for sure. Next fight on the card, we got our co-main event of the evening rematch between Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. I'm going to be picking Charles Oliveira to beat him for a second time. It's hard to pick against Charles Oliveira, who literally goes toe-to-toe with and tit-for-tat with Arman Tsarukyan and loses a split decision where he had a submission locked in to end the fight. Like, Oliveira is 1,000% still a top 3 lightweight in the world, and he's very much in the title picture and in the conversation amongst the elite. He also has already got a win over Michael Chandler. He knocked him out. Now, to be fair, though, Michael Chandler did some serious damage in that first round. Had Oliveira hurt and in a bad spot, getting hit with like ground and pound shots. It's like Oliveira is like trying to slip under him as he's on the ground. It was like Spider-Man trying to weave some shots. It was pretty Matrix-like from Charles Oliveira. But something we've learned time and time again about Charles Oliveira is he has incredible resilience and comeback ability. Whereas Michael Chandler, I don't think he does. When Michael Chandler gets badly hurt in fights, then you say, oh, but he beat Tony Ferguson after he got dropped in round 1. Is this the argument you're going to bring to me? Tony Ferguson dropped him? That's a bad sign. Holy shit. Like, okay, against Poirier, he had great offensive striking in round 1. He was landing big shots. He got dropped at the end of round 1, and then he wins round 2 with dominant wrestling for the most part. Then he ends up getting finished in round 3. He gets choked out by Poirier. We saw in the first Oliveira fight, Chandler had good success in round 1, hurting Oliveira, and then Oliveira hurts him, and Michael Chandler's like running away. He doesn't really do great after he gets hurt. His ability to come back from those very damaging exchanges, I would say, is questionable. They say, oh, but the Poirier fight, he won the second round. Yeah, but he was takedown and control, right? He didn't have that same offensive animal that he lets out normally. And I think that Oliveira is going to be able to beat him a second time. He's live for a submission or a knockout in this fight. I'm saying inside distance. I'll lean sub because I just have a feeling Oliveira catches him by sub this time out. But I could see him knocking him out again. Chandler is a super fun style. He's a chaotic brawler who shoots like a damn cannon. Like a boom, blow it up and then sprint at you and throw bombs. Like the way that Michael Chandler fights in this modern era, especially, it's one of a kind. It's amazing to watch. Michael Chandler, there's a reason he gets these big fights because he's super entertaining. But at the end of the day, his reckless style leaves so many openings that it's very hard to imagine a world where Charles Oliveira can't land the kill shot or can't find the kill submission. Even if Chandler has success, He's got to put Charles Oliveira flat out. And let's say Oliveira's hurt. We've seen it in the past where he'll fall to his back, and not like many guys are confidently following him up to the ground. Yeah, we saw Makhachev do it, but is Chandler going to just blitz into his guard like that? I don't know. I think that Charles Oliveira is going to beat Michael Chandler a second time. I think this fight's going to be very fun to watch, as was the first fight. And as we get into fight week, like, my anticipation for the rematch has actually grown, going back and rewatching the first fight and being like, damn, that fight was legendary. But it's hard to pick a Michael Chandler who, since that first fight, is 1-2 out of his last 3, and his losses are the guys that Oliveira beat: Gaethje in a fight of the year and Poirier in another badass fight. I'm picking Charles Oliveira to beat Michael Chandler again. I see him winning this fight. Respect to Chandler taking a big fight like this. Respect to the UFC for booking it, because Chandler waited and waited for Conor McGregor, but the McGregor pipe dream, sadly, never comes to fruition. Odds for the fight, it's -260 for good old Charlie O. With Michael Chandler at +220, I like the chances of a Charles Oliveira win. I understand why people, though, would be like, yo, I think Chandler maybe has a knockout chance. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I feel like it's like a 12% chance. I'm much more confident in an Oliveira win, if you're talking percentages, than Michael Chandler with the puncher's chance catching him. Because Chandler submitting him, I'd be shocked. Even Oliveira could time a takedown and get on top of Chandler. I think Charles Oliveira is good to go, and I think he's going to win this fight. I think he's going under 2.5, under 1.5, probably at -165. But, you know, with a high-level fight like this, it could go a little bit longer. I'd be shocked, though, if it's a patient first round. We got Michael Chandler coming out patient. Come on, man. No way. No way. That's a myth that doesn't exist, bro. It's like fucking Sasquatch or something. Patient Michael Chandler, I would be absolutely shocked. I don't think that's what's happening. I think it's going to be a high-pace, action-filled fight, and I think Charles Oliveira is going to come out on top. I'll Mystic Mac call the submission. I think he'll get a neck of Michael Chandler's, but don't be surprised if he knocks him out a second time. It's going to be a good fight. Chandler can definitely have some big moments, but Oliveira is going to have the biggest moment. He's going to win the damn fight. Charlie O for the W, getting it back on track after that loss to Arman Tsarukyan. And, bro, the fight before that, he killed Beneil Dariush. That deserves respect. The Islam Makhachev fight, he lost, but you know what? It's competitive. It's more competitive than many people remember, I'll tell you that much. And if Oliveira wins here, I mean, he's not far away from another title fight. Maybe even a fight against Max Holloway, I don't know, for the BMF belt. And then if he wins that title fight, we'll see what the UFC decides. And Chandler looking to bring a win back after that Poirier loss 2 years ago now. So, Charles Oliveira for the W. We're going with Charlie Olives to take it home. Let's keep running. Next fight, it is our main event of the evening. If you guys are watching and you haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe it up. It's Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight belt. I'm picking Jon Jones to win, and I think that he defends this title. But I'll tell you, I feel as though Stipe could give him more trouble than people anticipate. Like, I don't think it's going to be as much of a walk in the park as the fight between Jon Jones and Ciryl Gane. I really believe Stipe's grappling defense is a major factor that can keep him alive in this fight. Normally, he has very good takedown defense. Stipe, in his own right, brings wrestling threats to fights. Now, taking down a Jon Jones, I think relatively unlikely. I believe that if there are takedowns landed in this fight, which I'll anticipate there's going to be, I think they favor Jon Jones. I expect Jon Jones to look to use his wrestling. At heavyweight, I expect a wrestling-heavy attack from Jon Jones. And let me tell you why. Because even though Stipe, at 42 years old, is considerably past his best days, and he hasn't fought in, 3 years and 7 months? I'll tell you this. He definitely still has knockout power. He definitely still has dangerous boxing. The last thing to go is knockout power. And if there's any weight class where you can be 42 years old and still look relatively primed, it's heavyweight. I know for a fact Stipe is taking this fight serious. You can see through his Instagram, the dude's training full time. He ain't coming to lose. Stipe is going to make this a fight. And if Jon Jones keeps it in the striking realm, keeps it, especially in the red zone, that boxing range, or even in the yellow zone, gets too close, I do think that Stipe's power is something that can make Jon Jones very uncomfortable. And I can see Jon Jones getting hit with big punches in this fight. from the outside, Jones is okay. And I actually think from like super close, like the ultra red zone, it starts to become a green zone for Jon Jones with the tie clinch, right? With the knees to the body, with the elbows, and with the potential for trips. I really believe dirty boxing range, like real close, I'm going to favor it towards Jon Jones. But the typical boxing range, not clinched up, Stipe is going to be live to hit him with big punches. So just don't overlook Stipe. I know that he's lost, I guess not too many fights. He's 2-2 out of his last 4, and he hasn't fought in a long time. Ngannou brutally knocked him out. But if you rewatch that fight, before Ngannou flattened him, he did kind of hurt Ngannou with a big right. So you got to give Stipe respect because he was trying to sit in there and go toe-to-toe with Francis Ngannou. Very few people are going to be doing that in fights with Francis, especially like a smaller guy like Stipe, who came in at 234 for that fight when Ngannou looked every bit of 275. He looked like 10 pounds over the damn limit. I think that Stipe comes into this fight heavier than 234. I think Jones comes into this fight lighter than 248. I will anticipate the 240s is a weigh-in for Stipe. Jones is talking about he's around 235. I wouldn't be shocked if he weighs in at like 239, something along those lines. This is a really interesting matchup, and I think Jon Jones will win this fight by finish. I'm going to predict he gets it done inside of the distance. Don't think I'm straying away from a finish call for Jones. I think he gets this fight to the ground. He starts working on Stipe with some elbows. He beats him up a bit, and I do think he can find the submission. Honestly, it wouldn't blow my mind if he subs Stipe. Rear naked choke is live. Shit, Jon Jones is live for a damn key lock, okay? His submission game is incredibly high level, and I think we have to look at the sub as a live method of victory. But I won't lie to you, I'd rather go inside distance as the call, especially if you're propping it. Let me tell you why. Because 12-6 elbows are legal, and there's footage of Jon Jones training those. I could see Jones getting to dominant position on Stipe and absolutely obliterating him with big elbows. As far as picking the rounds, it's hard to say because it's really going to be dependent upon, does Stipe Miocic have quality takedown defense in the first round? If Jones gets him down early, I think this fight could actually be pretty quick. I'm leaning towards Jones with the finish on the ground, anywhere from round 1 to 3. I definitely think we're going under 3.5 rounds in this fight. I guess the Mystic Mac is coming out. Coming into this breakdown, I wrote down I was going to pick like round 3. But as I'm talking about it, I'm like, man, I don't know if Stipe can survive Jon Jones on top of him at heavyweight. It could happen in round 1. I guess I'm saying Jon Jones finishes this fight in the first 10 minutes. I'll say first round, but really it's first or second. First 10 minutes of the fight. I think Jones gets this fight to the ground at some point in those first 10 minutes. He gets dominant position on Stipe. Stipe is not going to have a very offensive game from the bottom. He's not really going to offer much of anything from bottom besides trying to push Jones off of him and get back up to his feet. And I think Jones from there can find the counter towards either a submission win, or I think he could throw some vicious ground and pound strikes. I think Jones is going to get this fight done on the ground, and I think he's going to win it most likely by either submission or ground and pound. Those are the methods of victory, really. So it makes it tricky to call, because if he ground and pounds him, he could potentially then lock up a sub. Or if he's just shooting for subs, that could happen too. I guess we'll see what Jon Jones decides and really what Stipe does with his reaction that opens a counter and an availability for a finish towards the Jones side. We'll find out. On the feet, though, I want to reiterate it. Stipe and Miocic can box, man. Stipe is dangerous on the feet. But Jones is going to be too mobile, I think, just with his overall game. He's still 5 years younger. I think he's going to get this fight to the ground and beat Stipe up. Stipe's been out for a very long time. He's 42, he's strong and he's powerful, but he's not ready to beat Jon Jones, who many consider, me included, the GOAT, regardless of some, out-of-the-cage bullshit that tends to happen with Johnny Boy. Minus 700 for Jon Jones. Yes, he's a wide favorite, but yes, he'll win. Plus 500 for Stipe. Do we have an under 3.5? I'm seeing under 2.5 is minus 175. I like the chance of under 2.5. I'll say yes, under 2.5. I also love under 3.5. I think fights ending inside of the distance. It's minus 475, chalky as hell, but it's an absolute lock. This thing goes distance, I'll be shocked. Nah. Jon Jones at heavyweight is going to be too vicious from top position. His elbows now giving him the weapon, the 12-6. Look what he did to Matt Hamill years ago. That one loss you see, the DQ, where he nearly killed Matt Hamill with 12-6 elbows. Now that technique is legal, he might just to prove a point, put Stipe in that position and beat the absolute shit out of him from there. So I'm going Jon Jones for the finish. He's getting it done with ground and pound or a submission. It's inside distance. For me, it's like ground and pound with the 12-6 elbows is calling my name a little bit. But the truth is, inside distance would probably be a money prop. But it'll still be wide as hell, like minus 350 if you're looking to bet on it. Either way, we shall see, because props will be dropping soon. Holy hell, I'm excited for UFC 309. I think it's going to be an absolute banging main event. As much as I gave this fight flack, I knew leading up to it and breaking it down, I was going to be excited to witness it. But I do feel the interim champ, Tom Aspinall, deserves a quick shout out here. And regardless of the outcome, I think he should probably be next for the actual belt. Because if you're throwing out interim titles and not giving undisputed title shots, then throw out the interim belts and let's not do it anymore. But that's just a quick rant. I'm not going to harp on that during this video. This is all about the breakdown. Those are my picks for UFC 309. I think I got some money ones. We've been absolutely crushing it lately with the picks. Last week was fire. So was the week before. Killing some fucking D-Gen parlays and all. So definitely tune in to Wednesday's show when we talk the betting side of everything in depth. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Thank you guys for 40,000 subscribers. Keep those subscribers coming. Make sure you smash the likes and share the video if you really enjoy the content. And let me know your picks on some of the big fights especially, but maybe some controversial prelims. I want to hear what the people are thinking about this UFC 309 card. You think Jon Jones is taking it home? I feel like most of us are. I'd be surprised to see any confident Stipe backers, but maybe you're out there. Maybe it's you. So let me know in the comments. Now, if you got nothing to say in the comments, but you just enjoy the content, as always, W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. I'm saying that Jon Jones' heavyweight legacy continues to move in the right direction as he defends his heavyweight belt. I see him taking out Stipe. Excited to watch the fight. Content every day. Keep it locked in. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.